Hello everyone, this is Paul the Oaken Knight coming back to you with part 2 of my gameplay video on Spruance Leader. I'd like to go ahead and begin by going through the various units that I have and highlighting their current status after having lived through the first engagement. The first unit would be Admiral Burchard in person. Rear Admiral Burchard is the task force commander for this mission. He is a skilled commander. I used my one and only skilled position that I was allowed at the beginning of the game on the Admiral rather than on a ship, which is perfectly fine. As you saw, as a admiral with leadership skills, and I think he's the only one that you have in the game. Others focus on anti-submarines or anti-air, anti-ship, or other such things. One of his key advantages is he gives you bonus actions that I put to heavy use during the first engagement. The second thing I really like about him is he gives one bonus experience points that you get to divvy out to your ships at the end of every engagement, which I think is really cool. And of course, that experience point is going to go to my best ship, which is the Fletcher, which you will see in a minute. For stress, Bouchard was on board the Hadakazi, which I designated to be the flagship. And the definition of flagship is that that's the ship where your commander is on. So if the Hadakazi sinks, Bouchard goes away. Because he was on a ship that was in the screen ships get 2 stress. So he was assigned 2 stress, but his cool rating of 1 right there allowed us to remove one of the stress points. So he is 1 stress point, and it takes 8 for him to degrade to shaken. So he's in great shape. There's no problems here. We have our Sea King helicopter on board the Fletcher, piloted by Cleaner. And Cleaner went ahead and used up his torpedoes in this first engagement, so he's out for the entire mission at this point. He still has 1 sonobuoy left, which may be a useful thing to have, but the main thing he's got is that dipping sonar. So he's still a fantastic sensor platform that we can use to put out there and try to detect submarines. And his sub rating is +1, so he's very good at what he does. He collects a stress point every time he takes off and every time he lands. So since hopefully the number of landings equals the number of takeoffs. So he's got 2 stress points, having survived the first encounter. And requiring 7 stress points before he degrades to shaken, he's still in great shape. He's got a lot of usefulness ahead of us. Moving on to the Fletcher, our Spruance class destroyer from the U.S. Navy. He has collected a single stress point. He was in the main force. The main force will collect 1 at the end of an encounter because they are in the main force. Remember that we also had an event card that added a stress point to each and every ship in the task force. So he had 2, but our cool rating, that the counter that I purchased up front, reduced it by 1. So this guy, requiring 7 before he goes shaking, is still a very useful unit. I expect him to be with us for some time. Further, he's only used, I think, one torpedo, something. I think he used 1 torpedo. That's it. So he's still got virtually all his ammunition with him that he will put to good use in hopefully the next and last encounter, which would be with the target. And this is the Hatakazi, the most effective of the Japanese ships. It has been designated as the flagship for the task force, which means that Admiral Bouchard is on board and can suffer the fate of the ship if it's destroyed. In the first engagement, the ship didn't use very much ammunition. I think it used one harpoon, and it has suffered 3 stress points, 2 because it was in the screen and 1 from the event card. Since it has a cool of 0, it didn't get anything back, so it retains its 3 stress points after the first engagement, which is getting kind of a lot, seeing how we have at least 1 more engagement to do in this mission. If he starts the next mission with 5 stress, we may have to do something with him. And here is the Asagiri, which was credited with 1 submarine kill from engagement number 1. Clearly he used some of his anti-submarine torpedoes, his Azrock Mark 46s. He has collected 4 stress, unfortunately. 1 because he had the engine trouble and was pushed back to the support area of the task force, and then later was ordered up to resume his position back in the screen. That cost 1 stress. Being in the screen costs 2 additional, and the event card costs 1 more. So that's 4. With a cool of 0, he retains his 4 stress, and once he hits 6, he's shaken. So he's clearly going to have to probably take a break in the next mission because he is loaded up with a fair amount of stress. One point I'd like to make is that these counters, like here and the +1 cool on the Fletcher, that was purchased at the beginning of the scenario, and you see the 4 says it costs 4 SO points to do that. These are referred to as commander skills, okay? Now, Brouchard is a commander. They call him a commander. These are commander skills, but it's confusing because they are different things. A commander is a card that follows along your task force, and he gives benefits to the task force. You may have up to 2 of those, but you can only bring 1 along on any given mission. So I have one sitting back in port, a newbie, and the far more experienced Admiral Brouchard. So he is a commander. This is a commander skill. Now, the way I look at it, the commander skills are a captain thing. So the captain of the Asagari has gone ahead and done some extra training or done something to increase the proficiency of this ship. And once assigned, this stays with the ship for the entire campaign. You can buy them up front when you first start, or you can buy them in between missions and assign them to ships. No more than one can be assigned to a ship. And finally, just to add a little bit more confusion, there are command ships. A command ship is actually a trait that certain ships have. It would be listed here where it says cool 0. Well, a command ship would be listed there if this was a command ship. What a command ship does is that if it is a flagship, then the commander who is on board gets 1 extra slow action. So ships such as the battleships, the Missouri, the Iowa, those are command ships. They tend to be the bigger ones, may represent more technology, may represent more room for staff. I'm not exactly sure what, but you're going to find that with the bigger ships. 1 or 2 of the cruisers and the battleships can be command ships. And if you make them flagships, your admiral becomes more effective. Very confusing between a commander skill, a commander, and a command ship. So that's the difference. And a flagship is simply any ship where the admiral is present for your mission. And finally, here are the 2 weaker ships in the task force, each of which has 2 stress, 1 from the event card, 1 from being in the main body of the task force. Neither has any cool rating, so they don't get to remove any stress that they accumulate during a mission. The Ubari actually sunk a sub, so it is credited with 1 sub kill and has 1 experience point. And assuming we win the mission, he's likely to go ahead and promote from green up to average, which would be a nice thing. The Chateaus is a very weak ship. Basically, he's a sensor platform and a potential target, and that's his job. I didn't put any weapons on this guy, and I put very few on the Ubari, but he did put it to good use. And now we find ourselves at the top of the mission execution phase, where we perform task force movement. To do that, we simply move our task force marker one step further down the movement track. And here we are in the next C zone. And we also find ourselves in the same area with the mission location, so the mission will be resolved here. After task force movement is performed, the next thing is to conduct possible air attacks that may show up. And we are now in the air attack zone. And basically, it's printed on the scenario card. Su-27s show up with a die roll of 8 or more. The die roll is 7. We got lucky. Remember, this task force is relatively weak against air attack, particularly ones with long-range missiles such as the Su-27. So that was a very fortunate thing. Without a Ticonderoga, we don't have any weapons that can reach out to range 4, and the Su-27s have some decent weapons that can shoot out from range 4. So they could actually take down a ship before they get into a real engagement range for our defense. The only ship we have that can shoot out to range 3 is the Fletcher. If I were to continue this campaign with a second mission, I think I would definitely bring the Reuben James along, as it's got more standard 1 missiles that can shoot out to range 3. So at least I'd have 2 ships capable of shooting that far. But here we are. We did not have to do that. We are now up to enemy task force activity check. There is no enemy task force activity here. That would be the random encounters. However, target area check. Yes, we are in the target area, so we are going to have an engagement. This is the one that counts. This is the one that can get us victory points, can count as a win, get us experience points in addition to sinking starred units, and go ahead and complete the first mission. And at this point, I get to rearrange the task force, and I am going to do some of that because of the various stress levels that the ships have accumulated. I'm going to go ahead and put the Fletcher up front, and with its cool rating of 1, it ought to be able to handle that without any problem. I put the Hasakazi back in slot 7 in its place because it's got 3 points of stress, and I want to try to favor that ship a little bit. Hopefully I can go ahead and squeeze another mission out of it before it has to stand down for a while. The Asagiri I'm going to go ahead and burn out. It's got 4 stress right now. At 6 it's going to go shaken. If it promotes, it might get a little bit better. It might get up to 7 points. So it doesn't much matter. That guy's going to be standing down next mission. And we're going to bring in the Reuben James. If you remember, I bought that extra American frigate, and it will definitely come in. So at least that, and I might buy another one. We'll see. So we've gone ahead and reformed the task force. We have the same general layout here. I don't need to change the chits in the search cup for the enemy vessels. Because this is a target encounter, I had to go back to the target card that we picked at the beginning of the mission and take a look at what we're going to find. And I see that we're going to hit the Sarimini and 2 Utiloys, as well as a single sub. This is an anti-submarine warfare group, but I'm sure it's got some pretty decent anti-ship capabilities. I've done a random pick for the enemy sub from the unknown subs because it is not a named sub, it's a generic sub, so we don't know what this is yet. Other than lucky us, we picked one with a star. All right, so to pick the named ships as opposed to just ships that have not been named, you go to the enemy ship card deck, flip it over, and just go find those named ships. So I've gone ahead and placed all the ships. This is the Sarimini, probably the most capable of the Soviet ships. Very dangerous, all of them very dangerous. This is one of the Utiloys, the Admiral Tribits, something like that. And this is the Utiloy itself, the named ship of its class. And the submarine actually set up very close. We're going to have problems like we did in the last engagement here. The weather, unlike last engagement, is pretty good. Sunny, easier to see surface-to-surface contacts. The layer is weak, and we have cooperative seas going all the way out, except for towed array at long range. The battle turn is set at 5, and we are ready to go ahead and pull the event card. Oh, gee. Unexpected enemies. Add 1 additional random ship to the task force encounter. This is a ship, not a sub. But things just got nastier. Please, Lord, don't let this be the Kirov. Alira. What is that? Well, it looks like a minor ship. This is not starred. And it looks like some kind of patrol ship. Not happy it's here, but it's not a very strong ship. And Alira is out here. Maximum range. He's not a starred ship. I think he's some kind of intelligence gathering ship, so certainly not a frontline unit. Since this is a target scenario rather than a random one, we have to destroy all surface ships. Okay. Well, I guess you could say that's a surface ship, but even though it is starred, we do not have to destroy that submarine. However, from all practical purposes, it's so close and it is starred, it's going to be a nasty one. I think we have to destroy that submarine too. I don't think it's going to give us any choice. So here we are, the scenario is set up. We're ready to go ahead and begin the battle cycle with perform sonobuoy detections. And I have opted to launch the helicopter. It is on the Fletcher. The Fletcher is in the screening force, therefore the helicopter is a part of the screening force. It gets 4 actions that it can do. Taking off is one of them. I've assigned it an additional stress for the takeoff. And it has 3 remaining points for doing something. Because there are surface units here that can detect this helicopter, I am putting in 3 helicopter detection counters into the detection cup, which will put the helicopter at high risk as far as getting shot down. But hey, I'd rather have them shoot down a helicopter than pummel one of my ships. I can buy another helicopter. Ships cost more, and they come back as newbies. Helicopters don't accumulate experience. They kind of are what they are. So that's 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, and 4 points. Now, because this submarine is not deep, it opted to be shallow, I get a madman detection. If I had 1 point left, I could have dropped a sonar buoy, or I could have even better done a dipping sonar. But I don't. But when you move on top of a sub, a madman detection is free. And so he's a 7 +1 because he has a +1 skill, and the noise modifier is actually not used for a madman detection. So we're going to go ahead, and this is not having to do with noise. So it's going to be a 7-6. It's going to be a 6 trying to find this guy. So let's give it a shot. 6. All right. So this sub is detected. It's detected at level 1. And we have determined the submarine to be another alpha. We've seen these before. They are noisy, relatively speaking, but they are very torpedo evasive because they're very fast subs. And the helicopter has completed its action. The Asagiri is going to fire 2 ASROC launch Mark 46s at the submarine. The skill modifier for the Asagiri is 0. Range at 3 away is 0. The torpedo defense for the submarine is 2, so that's 2 in its favor. Detection level is 1, so that's 1 in its favor. This is going to be a spread, so we're going to calculate that. Right now it's 1 in the sub's favor, but we have this. That turns it into 1 to the ship's favor, its attack. So the first torpedo is going to be +1, making it more likely to hit. The second one is going to be +2 because of the effects of the volley fire. Here we go. Base number 7, so a 6 and a 5 is what we're shooting for. For the 6, yes, that's a hit. This submarine only takes 2 hits. Now for the 5, 9, it's sunk it. It's gone. All right, Asagiri has sunk another starred submarine, and so this alpha is history. So I think I'm going to go ahead and activate the Fletcher, and he's finally going to get to try to do something. Now, I could go ahead and do a search on any of these targets out here, and then if I got a detection level 2 or better, I could even take a single missile shot at them. But I think I'm going to do something different. We have VLS capability for our 4 Tomahawks that we have on board, and the Tomahawk's range is 6. The harpoon range is only 4. If I was going to go after the Subramini, I'd do it with a harpoon. But I'm going to go ahead and do a bearing-only launch, basically let these missiles search for their own targets and see what happens. You don't have to have an enemy detected to do a bearing launch, and so it's going to go down the line here. And whenever it finds a ship on either side, it has a 70% chance of targeting that ship. Let's see what happens. So 4 Tomahawk anti-ship missiles are launched from the vertical tubes on the Fletcher. And the first possible target is the Subramini. Each of the 4 missiles has a 40% chance, or a 7 or better, of attacking this vessel. And I do have 1 missile that has selected the Subramini. The missiles continue on, and now we're going to see if we can pick up the first Eutoloi. And 1 missile is attacking this Eutoloi. And now the missiles continue on, and we're going to try to pick up the second Eutoloi. And 1 missile is attacking the third Eutoloi. And finally, we're going to attempt to pick up this intelligence ship, is what I think it is. And we pick up the intelligence ship. So everybody's got one missile. Who knows? It could all be over right here. All right. These ships all have a similar defense profile. All of them have missile defense 1. So the modifiers are going to work out the same on all of them. These are going to be done as normal attacks. And since we only have one missile at each, we only have one missile homing in on each individual targets, there will be no volley fire here. The Tomahawk has a slightly better chance of hitting. A 6 would be 1 hit. A 9 is 2 hits. You can actually get 2 hits with a Tomahawk, although we only need 1 on any of these vessels. We'll take it out. So the missile defense is a 1 on each of these ships. That is the only modifier. Since we don't have any detection on them, we get no detection modifiers. So we're shooting for 7s on each of the ships. So here goes. On the Subramani. Boom! It's gone. And now we're on to the first of the Utiloys. 4. Nope, not this time. I guess no presidential unit citation this time. Missile picks up. It's done. And again, this does not go back on the ship. This is expended ammunition, so it doesn't come back again. And now we're going after the second Utiloy. I don't feel too bad. As long as the Subramani was probably the most dangerous of all these ships. Not that the Utiloys are not dangerous. It's just that the Subramani is a little bit better chance of causing damage. Plus, it was closest. All right. See if we can pick off a Utiloy. Yes. Oh, yes. That is an ex-Utiloy. Ba-boom-ba. And now the final missile is going after this intelligence ship. See if we can pick this one off. Not bad at all. Ba-boom-ba! 3 out of 4 sunk in one volley. Oh, man, I guess we'll give him a presidential citation. Why not? All right, so that is the Fletcher shot with his Tomahawk anti-ship missiles. Note that the Fletcher now has 2 starred trophies in its trophy case for gaining experience point. The intelligence ships was not starred, so it just sinks. It doesn't provide any experience. So it was just kind of there. And the Fletcher is now done. And our task force has one final thing that we can do. And that would be a fast action from the Admiral. Since we can't reach out to range 5 with a harpoon missile, there's nothing we can do with that. The only thing we can do is search, but we can do all of that as a slow action and reserve both the fast action and the slow bonus actions from Admiral Burchard for the slow phase. So there's only one bad guy out here now. He's at range 5. He can shoot at range 4. It's possible he can get a shot in. We might just have to dice that. I am not seeing how we're going to get any shots off on this guy right now, so I'm not going to do any further actions as the allies. So let's go ahead and move on to the move enemy ships phase. And the card shows a movement +2, so we add +2 to the die roll. Note that he can only have 1 contact, so he can only try to track 1 target at a time. These are not the top of the line ships, although, you know, if you're the one that's targeted, they're good enough to ruin your day. All right, let's see what happens. Where's this guy going to go? I rolled a 4. +2 is a 6. 6 with a surface ship is patrol. He doesn't go anywhere. Interesting. And because he doesn't go anywhere, he is out of range for shooting, but he can conduct a search. And this would be a surface search. Let's go ahead and see. Who is he going after? Who is the lucky one? And the lucky one is Task Force Ship number 2. That would be the Asagari. He's attempting to get a hold of the Asagari. Again, he's out of range, so he isn't going to be shooting, but he could initiate the contact and possibly be ready to shoot him next turn. All right. The range is taken off of here. Okay. Search for surface detection. It's a +1. Conditions are favorable for finding surface vessels. Okay, so he's got one in his favor. Now, in this case, I do include the range because this is weather. That's different than the range. So I am going to actually use the modifier, the -1 modifier on the map. This is not exactly how it's supposed to work, but I think it makes sense to me that even though if the weather's good, range still matters when you're searching for something. So we're going to use that. So it's going to be +1 and then -1. He has not detected this guy previously. There's no detection level, no damage. The environment. It is a wash, and his sensor package is a 5/8, and it's going to be a wash. So it's whatever we roll. 1 through 4 is going to not detect anything. Anything else will. A 1. It is not the commie's day. He's not detected anything. Hoorah! Okay, so the Soviet ships are done. They've moved. They've attempted their detection roll. They did not achieve a detection. This goes back in the cup. Now we can do a few different things. The first thing we're going to do is use an admiral's action to go ahead and pull these guys closer. It's going to basically, our task force is steaming straight towards the target. We want to pull them in from range 5 to range 4. Harpoons have a range of 4, so this will allow us to do some shooting. And we used one action to do so. And both the helicopter and the Udaloy are pulled one zone closer. Next, we still have to detect this guy unless we want to do a blind shot. And against only one guy, blind shots don't make any sense at all. So I think we'll start with the throwaways, the guys that are basically sensor platforms, and that's it. So the Chitos, our junky Japanese ship, is going to try to do something. So the Chitos has a skill of -2, which is bad. He is looking for a target that has a noise modifier of 1, so that's 3 points against him. The surface detection modifier, since the weather is good, is +1, so now it's only going to be 2 against him, and that is all there is. His sensors are 6/8, so -2 on the roll. A 9. Oh boy, they ate their Wheaties today. So 9, so it's a 7. It is a detect 1 on the second Udaloy. I think we're going to activate the Hatakazi, the flagship. Now, if he actually sinks this guy, the admiral on board will also get an experience point. So both the ship and the admiral will get an experience point for sinking this starred vessel because the admiral is on board the Hatakazi. All right, we do not have vertical launch capability with this ship, so we can only fire 2 harpoons, but that is exactly what we're going to do. So, first thing, and looking at the shot, we have the Hatakazi has a +1 ship modifier, so that's 1 in his favor. Range and azimuth is going to be 0. Range 4 is just normal. The ship has a missile defense of -1, so now we're awash. Detection level is 1. Now we're back to 1 in favor of the shooter. We have a volley fire going on, so the first one is going to be 1 in favor of the shooter. The second one is going to be 2 in favor of the shooter. And that's what we got. So we're shooting for, the first shot is a 6 + 1, so it's a 5. The second shot is a 6 + 2, which is a 4. Okay, shooting for 5. 1 hit kills. Nope. All right, shooting for a 4. Yes. Okay. Well, the Hatakazi gets its trophy. Again, all these ships, they only take one hit. They're not big. They're not big ships. They're only destroyers. So much for that. We'll win the scenario because the defenders are all wiped out. But let's go through the procedure to finish out this encounter. We don't need the weather anymore. The encounter is ended. With the end of the encounter, we pick an event card and execute the bottom action. Task Force Evasion. For the next random tactical encounter, apply -2 modifier on the activity roll. Well, there isn't going to be any more encounters as part of this mission, so this is basically a nothing burger. All right. Evaluate encounter. Well, as a big W. That's going to score 5 victory points, and it's going to move the task force marker 1 to the right on the campaign sheet. So now the most random encounters we can encounter during a mission is 3 instead of 4. And the 5 victory points are written down on the campaign log. So here I note that the target's destroyed, that we moved the task force marker over by 1, moved the task force over by 1, scored 5 victory points, and our current victory point total is 5. Then it's move enemy units. Well, as I explained, this is a misprint on the map. This should have to do with repairing damaged friendly units that are repairable at sea. We received no damage. Small miracle. So there's nothing to do here. Now we add stress. It's going to be the normal thing with the event card did not touch us. So ships that are in the screen add 2. Ships in the main force add 1. We have none in the supported/protected force. The helicopter is going to take another stress when it lands, and the admiral will go ahead and collect the same number of stress points that the Hatakazi is, because he's on board the Hatakazi. Then we finish by applying the cool factors. And of the vessels that we have, the Asagiri is clearly in the worst shape of them all, with 6 stress points at this point. It puts him in the shaking category, so he's shake and bake. But he will probably promote with this extra point that he's got here and the one from before. So yeah, he's going to promote. That might improve his stats down here to keep him out of shaken, but this guy's going to have to stand down the next mission. When he stands down, he gets 2 back. Alternatively, I could pay 10 SO points for getting 2 stress off of everybody, but I'd rather just buy another ship. I can get a pretty decent frigate, an American frigate. It'll be a newbie, but it will be an American frigate. So that's my preference. That's a strategy thing. The Chateaus and the Yubari are the same, basically. They each have 3. They only take 4 to go shaken. I believe they're going to promote. At least the Yubari will, because he had that bonus point before. Well, he needs 4. I'll have to see. If these guys don't promote, I think that they got to stand down also. And maybe even if they do. The Hatakazi has got 4 stress, and it takes 7 to make him go shaken. I will probably need to bring him along just because I'm going to have other ships standing down. However, I may not use him in the screen anymore. Let him lay back in the main force so he only is going to collect 1 stress per engagement under normal circumstances. And the Fletcher has got 2 experience points bonus. He's going to promote. I can see that because he only takes 4 to go to the next level. So he's going to become a skilled ship, which may help improve how many it takes to get to be shaken. Right now he's at 7. Maybe he'll get to be an 8, but certainly his stats will take a positive bump when he promotes. And he is definitely coming along. Especially that cool rating helps because that's negated a couple stress points so far. The helicopter is taken off and landed twice. So he has got 4. He takes 8 to get shaken. So it's going to take 2 more. Well, he only gets 1 more. On the 7th point, he goes shaken. He will be less effective. It might be good to stand this guy down and pay to bring in a fresh helicopter. I kind of think that's what I'm going to do. He was very effective this time. The first mission, he got 1 hit on a 2-hit sub, and then the ships finished it off. So, and in this one, he made a critical detection roll that allowed one of the other ships to get the kill right away on that submarine, which was a very good thing. And the Iron Admiral, with his cool rating, he was sitting back in the screen, so he only would have collected 1 point, and the cool 1 rating wipes that out. So he is in great shape. This guy's probably going to be able to go through the whole campaign without resting, and we like that. So it's time to go ahead and credit everybody with the experience that they've earned. And the way that works is pretty simple. First, every ship that was involved in this mission, win or lose, gets 1 experience point. If we won, if the target was destroyed, each ship and the commander get an additional experience point. Finally, if the flagship that the commander was on was a screening ship, he gets 2 more experience points. And if he was anywhere else, in the main force or in a protected force ship, he gets 1 additional experience point. And finally, everybody who sank a starred vessel gets 1 experience point for each starred vessel that they sank. I'll go ahead and compare the resulting number of experience points to the requirements to get promoted. So, for example, on the Shitosi, N3 means he's a newbie, and he takes 3 experience points to promote. And if he does, we debit the 3 out of his total. We flip his card over to the green side. And so the next time he goes out, he will be better, although he still will carry forward the stress that he has. Let me go ahead and figure out how this is affecting these ships. So the Fletcher promotes, and it has improved missile defense as well as attack skills for sub and air. Using my extra experience point allocated from Admiral Bouchard, the Hadakazi was able to promote, and has now got a cool 1, which is very good. That's going to help keep us in the game. So now, even though we go shaken at 7, we'll be able to stretch that out a lot farther as long as we keep him back in the main force rather than in the screen. So that even though he's got 4 stress on him right now, I think he's going to be good for the next mission. And finally, the Atakazi promoted. It did good work this mission. However, the 6 stress points still keeps him as shaken. He did not get an additional cool. He's now only average. He has some better stats, and he has a 1-point torpedo defense that he didn't have before. This guy's going to have to stay in port for the next mission. Now, one of the things that is a little bit weird about the game is that when you're done with a mission, all the leftover missiles and whatnot all go away. You don't get any credit for missiles that you haven't used, and you start over from 0 at the next mission. What you do is you get your points for the new mission, which in this case it's going to be 26. And because I make it a habit of spending no more and no less than the amount I get for a mission on munitions, I should be pretty steady in the amount of points I carry over. My random mission got me 3 extra points, and so I'm going to start with 3 more points than I started at the last mission. And I'll spend the 26 to get more missiles after I get rid of everything that's left over. And that's how we would start the second mission. In this case, absolutely the Asagari is going to stay home. I will bring in the Reuben James, and the Hadakazi can hang in there. I may just swap out both the Chitos and the Yubari. They're fairly marginal. They did not promote. They need 1 more point each. Let them rest up for at least one mission. I could bring in a second U.S. frigate. I might do that. I'm not going to do another one on camera. But should I continue this, I might pay Say something like 8 or 10 points for another U.S. frigate. It'll come in as a newbie, but it will put me in a great position for swapping ships in and out as the campaign continues. Also, probably bring in another helicopter and may set the Sea King down. He's only good for one more sortie before he goes shaken, and that's not all that great. I think I might swap out the Sea King, leave him back in port, and then bring in a fresh helicopter, if not two. All right, we are done with our demo, and I will conclude with some general comments as far as what I think about the game. So what do I think of Spruance Leader? Well, in general, I'm a fan of the Leader system games, going back to FA-18 Leader, Thunderbolt Apache, and through the most recent offerings. Spruance Leader is a bit different in that it is not focused on air campaigns, but the game's mechanics, in my view, have been successfully adapted to the Cold War naval arena. The level of abstraction works well for me. Going back to the old Harpoon system, I always felt that it was just too detailed and fussy. Spruance Leader gives you much of the feel of running a naval campaign, but saves you from the minutiae. The campaigns are many and varied, and gives the player choices rated for challenge level and options for play length. Overall, I'd put Spruance Leader in the top third of the series. For me, it definitely contains the fun factor that DVG games are so good at delivering. Their Games People Play motto is on full display here. But, as always, there are some issues worth mentioning. First, the rulebook delivered with the first edition is poorly organized and is missing material. The first 23 pages explain every entry on the cards and the counters without giving much of a clue as to how all this stuff is used in the game. Even the sequence of play does not appear until page 26. For me, anyway, not having any idea of how the game flows makes learning the game much more difficult. Moreover, by the time I read how a given rating is used, I've already forgotten what it is and have to go back some 25 pages to figure it out. To his credit, Dean recognized the issue and made good on it. The second version of the rule book is well organized and uses the two-column format to present procedures and component data on the same page. Version 2 is a total remake from an organizational perspective, and oh so much better. The issues with version 1 of the rules do not end there, however. For example, successfully completing a mission will, among other things, earn victory points, and adjust the game tracks to make the campaign a bit easier from that point forward. Version 1 of the book is silent on adjusting the tracks, while version 2 fully explains track adjustments. Now, veterans of the Leader system might be able to figure this out, as similar rules are part of some of the previous releases, but players new to the system may not be so lucky. Dean has also released a full set of updated scenario cards for the game that replace those provided in the core game. Some represent only small tweaks, while others may be unplayable as printed. For example, the land-based Soviet aircraft in the Hokkaido scenario are listed as MiGs on the original card, without any reference to the type of MiG, and Su-27s in the updated version. The overall impression makes me think the game went into production before it had been completely proofed. Errors and omissions in the rules, support cards, and even sequence of play errors printed on the game map give the impression that the game was rushed. Given DVG's marketing philosophy of releasing multiple expansions for core games, there are currently 3 expansions for Spruance Leader. Perhaps this was a bit too much to handle and maintain quality. So, given all that, should you give Spruance Leader a try? I think it breaks down a couple different ways. First, for current owners, if you are like me and got your copy a year ago but still haven't played it, I think it is definitely worth your while to go over to BGG and download and update the rules and the scenario cards. The game passes the first fundamental test of all games face. It is fun to play. Second, if you don't own the game, now that you're aware of the updates that you need, you'll need to decide whether you want to pay for a game where you toss the rulebook plus all the scenario cards and make your own from the downloads provided. Given the number of options we as gamers have these days, it's hard for me to recommend this option. Better, maybe wait for a second printing and hopefully get the updates from the printer as it should have been from day one. I would also like to see an update packet made available to those having the first printing at cost so we can have professionally printed materials with our games. Other companies have done exactly this, such as Flying Pig did with the most excellent A Most Fearful Sacrifice. Okay, so I think that's good for now. Please leave your comments, thumbs up, and hit a notification bell if you've not already done so. Don't forget to subscribe, and of course, if you already have, thank you so very much. So, this is Paul, the Oaken Knight, wishing you all a pleasant evening.